mind, I never mentioned that there were men as dark as this. Wow, look at that nose. He's just like a pig. He's a monster! Hut!
In today's episode, I'm joined by Political Kathy, who, after having technical difficulties in the first episode, has decided to come back and reshoot. So I thank you for that first off.
No problem.
Now, my first question for you is basically your political views. Now, you were once an Obama supporter, but now you've switched to Trump. Can you tell me the point where you decided to make that switch?
I was in high school, and all my friends were Obama lovers. And I realized that they didn't really have a reason to like Obama. All they did was say he's a cool person, and he's really funny, and that's why they support him. So I did my own research, and I realized that I lean more towards the right side. So that's how I, became a Trump supporter.
Okay. And what is it about Trump that, speaks to you relative to, other Republican and Democratic candidates in the 2016 election?
Well, first off, you probably heard this before, he's not a politician. He's not, a regular politician. So he came from the business world, and he knows a lot about, money, economics. And basically, our country's kind of ran on money, ran on economics. So he was very outspoken. He spoke his own mind, and he didn't really care what the media or any of, his, anyone talks about. So, he had his own issues, and he addressed them.
Okay. Now, 538 is a website that does a lot of political work, and I recently checked them out, and they said that Trump has record lows for approval ratings and record highs for disapproval ratings compared to every other president at this point since Harry Truman, which was the 1940s. Why do you think that Americans view Trump in such a negative light?
Because media. Usually, a lot of Americans watch, any media news outlet, I guess, like Fox, CNN, stuff like that. Any media will portray one side more than the other. And so what I did was that I don't look at, news stations for information. I now look at the full speech. So, for example, like CNN one time, they were replaying a Trump speech, but they cut off important parts of the speech that was relevant to the whole conversation. But they cut it off, and it made him seem like a racist, which he wasn't. So, you got to watch the whole speech from beginning to end instead of watching a news source play it. Okay.
Well, going on that, I can look at his Twitter feed, for example, and it can be sometimes incoherent in terms of, what he's saying. So I get that there are people that have a spin sometimes, but, when you have somebody that just at 2 a.m. says "Café," it can be hard to really try to understand where he's coming from. And I think that there is an argument to be made that he makes decisions that are kind of, I guess, erratic or not necessarily thought out. I know the media is out to get him. That's for sure. But if you could say, all right, if there are Republican candidates who have a lower approval rating than Democratic candidates at this point, then there's a liberal bias. But if he has record lows for every president compared to, since the 1940s Harry Truman, you don't think that may say something about maybe it's not just the media, it's something else that he's doing as a president of the United States?
Well, as I said, people don't usually like outspoken people. They usually like, the perfect, cookie cutter kind of person, and to fit along with the presidential role. And he isn't that type of person. And people are, I guess, surprised by that. But his ratings have gone up significantly. I don't know how long you've seen this information before, which website or which day the website was, publishing by. But he's been doing a lot of his campaign promises. He's been keeping his word, and he's continuing to do his campaign promises. And right now, taxes, he's doing the tax reform. And today, Walmart just, I think was they raised the minimum wage to $11 per, hourly workers. And that's a good thing.
Can you give me more examples of where he's held his campaign promises, I guess, in his administration?
Yeah, for example, the immigration issue, also national security. I feel like he's been constantly talking about, one of his big ideas for the campaign promises, which he ran by, was that he wants to make sure America is safe and make sure that Americans are treated better and treated the best out of, for example, like illegal immigrants, stuff like that. And so that's where he keeps his promises, and he's still continuing to do that. And he's, every day he's pursuing new things, but he's not straying away from what he promised us. Like his whole idea, his whole foundation is still there.
Okay. And one of the things that he mentioned, I think, in his inauguration speech is that the forgotten man never be forgotten again. And he's also, like, during the campaign trail, he bashed people like Hillary Clinton and Ted Cruz for having ties to Goldman Sachs. But one thing I've noticed is that he has a lot of people from Goldman Sachs in his administration, as well as there have been reports that have said that the American Health Care Act and both the tax plan were going to help the wealthy and not the poor. Do you believe that those studies are fake news, or do you think that they've been spun with a liberal bias, or do you think that they're actually helping the poor? I guess the tax plan and the healthcare bill that was proposed last year.
For everyone who has been supporting him, we all look into what he's doing, constantly. I think more than no, but we all look into what he's doing. And right now for the healthcare thing, if he were to do that just for the rich, to make it easier for the rich, then people would notice that. It's not just for us. I think for me at least, me supporting him is what he does, not because he's Trump. I'm not supporting him because he's Trump. I'm supporting him because of his ideas and his, what he's going to do, what he's planning to do for this country. And if I read this information and I noticed that it was for the rich, I would be also upset about it. But I haven't seen that, and those reports I haven't seen either. So I don't know.
Okay. And going to your talking point on protecting this country. Now, during the campaign trail, he's talked about having a Muslim ban and promoting nationwide stop and frisk, which was deemed unconstitutional. There's also, during his administration, he's gotten rid of DACA, which is targeted mostly people who are of Mexican descent. Do you believe that these policies help the American people, or do you believe that they may be based in somewhat racial prejudice? What's your take on those?
No, I think illegal immigrants are not just Mexicans. There's many illegal immigrants. There's Asians, whites, blacks, Hispanics, anything. And also, Muslim is not a race, so you can't really be racist to a Muslim because, anyone can be Muslim. So I don't think he's racist at all. He's just, looking out for the American people. He's putting America first. He's putting U.S. citizens first above anything else, and that's what, we should do.
Muslim isn't a race, but and I understand protecting this country, there is radical Muslims out there, and we have to protect ourselves from that. But when you say that you're going to ban people from coming in from a particular country, period, and you have DACA, which targets people who did not choose to come here and have known this country since they were born. They've been saved under DACA. Most of them are hard workers, and now Trump is targeting them. One starts to think that maybe he's trying to target people who aren't white. Particularly when you have far right sites such as Breitbart saying that, DACA recipients, there are over 2,000 of them committing crimes, but then you realize that most of the people who are committing crimes at DACA, they represent a very small proportion of the people that have received, people who have received help from the DACA program. So when you have the far right promoting Trump's ideas in a way that skews the facts, and you see all these programs that are targeting people who are race or not, who are not white, it makes a lot of people who are liberals or left-leaning concerned about whether or not his policies are really about protecting the American people or just protecting middle America, which is just white people.
The thing is that he never got into depth with the DACA thing. He only said, it was a brief thing. He didn't go in depth with it. We don't know the details. We don't know what he's thinking of doing with these people. For me, my stance on that could be different from that. He didn't go into details. I have no idea what he is, leaning towards. But for me, I think DACA, we should give these people a chance to become citizens. If they don't want to do that, then we send them back. Okay. But if we're giving them a chance to willingly, be a citizen and contribute, then they should be able to have that chance.
Okay. My final question on Trump is there a point that you think that you may decide to, I guess, not support him and go towards a different candidate? Because I understand that you're a conservative, but I'm just wondering, like you said, it's about the policies, not the person. what do you think? What could he do that can make you decide, you know what, I'm not going to support Trump anymore?
Okay, if he goes easy on what he says, if he makes compromises that shouldn't be compromised on, for example, like national security, I feel like that's a big thing for me. If he makes compromises on that, I don't think I could support him like that. As I said before, yeah, I vote for the candidate, not for the party. I don't agree with conservatives in a lot of things either. I lean right, but I don't agree with all their stances. So I don't think that I would continue supporting Trump even if he does, things I don't agree on, because I don't do that. I'm an independent thinker. That's what my bio says on all my social media accounts. And if he does something that I don't like, I will definitely not support that. So yeah.
Okay. Moving on to a different topic. Now, I've noticed some of your posts, and I realize that you're critical of Black Lives Matter. Now, can you tell me what are your views on Black Lives Matter and the Black community? Do you feel like Black Lives Matter is necessary? Do you feel like blacks are being discriminated in this country? Just give me your take on that.
So, of course, there's still racism in this world, but Black Lives Matter, the organization, makes it seem as if almost all white people are racist. It's not true at all. I feel like they're blowing out of proportion, and they're not focusing on the main problem. For example, they're all focused on how police or cops kill black people. But if you look at it, blacks kill more blacks than anything, and also police kill white people more than they kill blacks. And all these cases that they present their argument on, it isn't really reliable. And for them to keep shouting that instead of fixing their own community themselves, fixing their values, fixing their, what they teach their kids, or how, the school system works, like, they should improve that within their own self. And then if they solve a problem with it, they protest. But they're not even doing anything for themselves. They're just protesting, asking other people to, not, I guess, because a lot of these people who are protesting, they're protesting because of cops killing blacks. And that's the main reason why they, have this whole protest. But I don't think that's necessarily true. It's not, cops are not just racist. There's many cases where a black guy who was shot by the police actually did come up to the police and try to assault the police before he was shot. And no one talks about that. So, of course, there are incidences where, cops could be racist, but they're blowing it out of proportion so much that it's not reliable anymore.
Okay. I'll give you this. There are issues within the black community. I mean, look, the black people aren't perfect. One of the things that I have an issue with is having your pants down. You have saggy pants. That's jail culture. You don't look good doing that. I don't understand why black people do that. It doesn't help anybody to do that. That's something that you can just change. Just pull your pants up. But that's a problem. But I think that when you have studies which show that white people are more likely to get a call back than black people, that, there's still various forms of discrimination within this country, systemic racism, and the fact that when you're in a black community, you don't have as easy access to things such as libraries and good schooling. I'm half black, half Hispanic. I had to go to a white school to get good education, and it wasn't near where I lived. When you take those things,
they're ruled by they've been voting liberals. Liberal candidates, liberal politicians have been a part of that black community.
Yeah.
And finally, we have a president who wants to help the inner cities and black community, yet they're not accepting the help because he's a Republican, not because he's wanting to help, but only because he's a Republican. They see that so much of, party versus this party. It's not like that. I think they should focus more on what he says and what he is trying to do for them, instead of just hearing a liberal candidate say, hey, we're going to help the inner cities, but then they do nothing about it.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll give you that. I mean, Democrats and liberals, particularly white liberals, talk the talk but don't walk the walk. But from the perspective of somebody who is black, it's a lesser of two evils. You've got Democrats who will do some things but not everything, and Republicans who basically won't do anything. I'll give you an example. Like Trump, you say that Trump is I guess trying to help, but when you have him making speeches saying oh, your schools are messed up, everything's garbage, whatever, what do you have to lose? Does that sound like somebody that really cares about what you have, about your lives and what you have to go through? You have somebody who has been recorded as a slumlord in Trump, who has a father that basically has been documented as a racist and put that into his child, who's Donald Trump. you can say that Republicans may want to help in some ways that Democrats can't, but particularly in Trump, when you have somebody who has a history of policies that are questionable, even by conservative standards, it's very hard for black people to say, yeah, no, this guy's looking out for me. And I don't necessarily see where he's helping black people. Sorry, go ahead.
What policies did he implement that's racist to black people?
Well, he said that he wanted to promote nationwide stop and frisk. That's the first thing that I'm thinking of, which was deemed wildly unconstitutional and overwhelmingly targeted blacks and Hispanics, while finding that there were more guns than white people, at least in New York City. You know, there's that. I haven't heard him say anything about, oh, well, there was a Colin Kaepernick thing. He doesn't want him to kneel when it comes to talking about the injustices in the in the black community. He's talking about how he wants him to be off the field for that. What?
Yeah, even liberals, even my liberal friends, they agreed that it was kind of ridiculous how he got a Citizen of the Year for kneeling before a football game. I feel like it's kind of ridiculous. Like, you know, it's fine to criticize someone for it. And I feel like I agree with Trump on this one because the Kaepernick guy, like, he didn't do anything. And so, and then, yet he's getting recognized because he was using this big platform to do something that no one wanted to watch. Like, it was a football game. It was like a game. So why would you bring politics into it?
But he does have the right to do that. It's not like, oh, what happened? Oh, your screen went up. He does have the right to do that. And I mean, look, you may not agree with Citizen of the Year. That's fine. There's no problem with that. But there was an issue in terms of him doing that. He didn't make a speech. He didn't, he just took a knee. That's it. Just a knee. And that was, like, one thing that people complain about with Black Lives Matter is that they're, just yelling and not, doing anything and just being loud. But then you have somebody like Kaepernick who takes a knee, and you complain about that, and it's like, well, how we have the right to protest. What means a protest is okay for conservatives at this point? Because it seems like no matter what black people do, when it comes to protesting, there's a problem. You get what I mean?
Well, no one is concerned about the protests. We're concerned about how violent they've become. These protests that usually happen with Black Lives Matter usually end in violence and somehow. And that's what we're concerned about. It's not because we're concerned about the protests at all. It's not because we don't want them to protest. It's not like that. It's because they end in violence, and that's what we don't want. So that's it. Okay.
And that's not okay. I'll give you that. Absolutely. But when you have two parties that really don't give a damn about the black community, when you have a situation where there is, like you said, still racism in this country.
You're saying that these two parties don't give a damn, but, like, when Trump has not, like, done anything bad to the black community at all. He even said in his campaign promises, one of his campaign promises was to help inner cities. And all of his supporters, including me, all the conservative supporters, are counting on him to keep his promise for that too. It's not just we like choose and pick which campaign promise we like. No, we have his words, and we want him to stick by his words. And one of those big campaign promises was to help inner cities. And if he doesn't do that, then that's and I won't support him with that. But he will do it. Like, I think that you're thinking way too much into, like, how there's so many white people or Republicans that are racist, but it's not like that at all.
It's not even necessarily racist. They care less than Democrats.
Well, Democrats say they care, but they don't do anything.
They do more than Republicans, I would say. I mean, listen, Democrats aren't perfect. Democrats are not perfect. I'm giving you that. But I don't, like, you're asking me to find out, like, what Trump has done for the black community. Like, how has he hurt the black community? Okay, fine. Taking your logic, he hasn't hurt the black community. But then if you're saying that he's looking to help, when you have that speech, like, what have you got to lose? Then what has he done to help the black community? What has he done?
Every candidate that is voted into office at, around the inner cities are liberal, basically, all of them. And the black community continues to vote liberal, yet they see no change and they complain about it. But then finally we have a man who wants to step up, but you guys don't even give him a chance. Like, that's the issue I'm seeing. Like, you guys automatically think that he's not going to do anything because he's Republican. Because you automatically assume that Republicans are racist and that Republicans are not going to do anything. That's not true. I mean, Republicans haven't done anything because they weren't voted into office in the inner cities. Inner cities were basically dominated by liberals, and they haven't done anything. So why not change? Why not, make a change and then try if it works? So now we have to wait and see, what Trump is going to do.
Well, again, on the campaign trail, he wanted to do nationwide stop and frisk, which doesn't help black people at all. We had a Republican mayor in Rudy Giuliani in New York City. I'm from New York. And I believe it was him who started stop and frisk, where the issue, sorry, your cat. That's not the cat. Okay, he promoted nationwide stop and frisk. He started it, and I mean, he also has very questionable beliefs about the black community as well. He's a Republican. It's not like there isn't somewhat of a record of Republicans not necessarily being too kind to the black community. Reagan, I believe, was it Reagan that started the drug war, and that targeted the black community? It seems like that was just a way to, target blacks. It wasn't Reagan, but it was somebody. It was older than that, but that also targeted blacks. My point is this. You're saying that Republicans give them a chance, but I don't see how they have any policies that are looking to help the black community in any way. It doesn't. If you're saying that because the Democrats haven't done anything, try something better, well, you have to give me something that obviously says, okay, we're giving you a better option. And people don't see that, black people don't see that, conservatives, particularly Trump, who try to deny that there's racial inequality. In some cases, that's what it is, I think.
See, these people in inner cities or even here, I mean, anywhere, they pretend that, the president has a really big say in like their county or their little community. Usually local politics is what makes a change in these inner cities, right? Yet they're still voting liberal, but they're mad at a Republican president. Yet they're still voting liberals in their cities. And that's the problem. Like, local politics is more important than national politics, in my opinion. You feel the change more, and you feel the policies more. But they don't care about local politics. They all complain about the president, but then when you ask about local politics and ask who they voted for, they're like, oh, I didn't know there was an election coming up, stuff like that. So you blame the president, Republican president, but then you don't vote in your local elections. So,
I mean, I think the main disagreement, I guess, before I go to the next question, because we're taking a little bit of time here, I think the main disagreement that's over here, that we're having, is that you believe that conservatives can offer a better alternative and that they should be given a shot. And I'm saying, from my perspective, that the reason why blacks go liberal or democratic is because it's the lesser of two evils, and we don't really have a choice in terms of having a politician that really gives a damn about our issues and looks to fix them. Rather, we're used as political tools to get whatever the Republicans or Democrats want. It's just a matter of lesser of two evils. It's not that black people don't know that they're stuck in this, that they're voting liberal. It's just that they don't have a better choice, in their opinion.
I disagree. Many people, not just blacks, but many people aren't educated about, what the leanings are. They think that, like, who wouldn't want national security? Who wouldn't want, well, I guess, like people who like, no borders, whatever, but even for parents, for, black parents, Asian parents, whatever, parents in general, they should want the safest country for their kids to live in, right? That isn't just, I feel like that shouldn't be a party thing, that should be like a normal thing. And when you have a Republican candidate, or just a candidate say that they want to protect the U.S. from terrorism, from bad things, but they still don't vote for him because he's deemed racist in the media. That they're being brainwashed. They're being taught these things. They're not doing their own research. And I feel like these people who complain about Trump so much, they don't even care about the little things. Like, they don't care about their local politics. They only care about what's being played in the mainstream media, and that's Trump's presidency. So I feel like, if you wanted an improvement, you start looking at your own communities, you start voting in your own communities, you start trying your own communities before spreading outwards.
Okay. Switching gears a little bit, It's kind of the same subject, but not really. Do you believe that there is anti-blackness in Asian communities? And how do you think basically the Asian community views black people from your perspective?
Anti-blackness in Asian communities.
Yes.
I can't speak for, all of Asia, but I can just speak for myself and my family, because I know them and I know myself. I don't think there is, I guess, racism, but I do think that we do look at media, and when media, constantly has, like crimes and criminals, and we base our judgment on those news things. And for example, like my friend always told me, like, you don't see any Asians on, committing crimes online or like, on TV. And it's like, yeah, like, but see, you get your gauge and you get your judgment from those things. But I don't think it's necessarily racism. It's more of like awareness of what's happening in this world right now, and that's what they're judging on. But I don't personally believe that there's going to be there's a racist thing towards black people because they're black.
It's because of the way that they're perceived in the media? Is that what you're saying? I just want to make sure that's...
I think that it's not that they perceive it that way, but I think that they just know the ratios and what is being broadcasted in media.
Okay.
Yeah. That goes for everyone. It's just not just Asians. For everyone, I think.
In terms of how people view other races?
Well, I guess, but not really, because, they're not saying... Because there's white people who see white people that are criminals on TV. But they're going to be like, okay, that's a bad white person. That's it. But they're not going to say all white people are bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we're saying. But I'm saying, like, there's... Usually, statistically, there's more, minorities, as in, like, blacks, Hispanics, whites, that are on TV that do bad things, rather than, for example, like, you don't see any Asians there, so you would think that Asians don't commit crimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just all about perception. It's all about what they're being broadcasted on TV.
Yeah. I understand that question may have came out of left field for you. I'll give you the reason why I asked. Is because from the perspective, I guess, from the black community, I've talked to some black people, it may feel as though we're held to it, and Hispanics too, are held to a different standard when it comes to interacting with or dating people within the Asian community. And part of that you could say is because we're always portrayed as people who are criminals and uneducated. But sometimes it feels as though we need to get like a college degree or have our lives together if we're black and Hispanic, and we need to associate with other Asian people or date them. Whereas a white person or an Asian person, or a white person more likely, would not necessarily have to have those qualities. So while it may seem as though, like, all right, we're making judgments based off of what we see in the media, it seems that even the people who aren't doing those things, if they're simply black or Hispanic, aren't necessarily welcome in the Asian community, especially if you're black. And that's why I asked.
I disagree, because if I see, an Asian guy or a white guy sagging their pants, I wouldn't find them attractive either. You know what I mean? It's like, it's on what you see in communities. And you see mostly, blacks or Hispanics sagging their pants more than white people or Asians. Mm-hmm. So it's like that. And I feel like I don't think it's racism. I think it's more of preference. People have preferences. I think culture-wise, too. White culture is very similar to Asian culture, and Hispanic culture too. Hispanics and Asians have like very similar culture, I believe, like family values and like a lot of things tied together. And that's what is deemed attractive when you find someone you want to marry, someone that has the same culture, someone that has the same values as you. And we have two different clashing cultures. It doesn't work out, and that's why people, for me, I guess, or like Asians, that's why people, date people that have similar cultures, similar mindsets.
Okay. Which leads me, you say culture clash, and that leads me, I guess, to a point that I wanted to make about the model minority myth. Now, in our previous discussion, which you can't see, we talked about that and, how you felt as a model minority. I just wanted to bring up the fact that when I had done some research on the model minority myth, it seemed to have come from the 1960s, where you have articles such as Success Story, Japanese American Style in the New York Times, and U.S. News and World Report's success story of one group in the U.S., something like that, one minority group in the U.S. Both the Japanese and Chinese, respectively, are portrayed as model citizens in those articles. But at the same time, they demonize black people who were in the middle of the civil rights movement. So I would say that part of the reason why that there's a clash between the Asian and black communities is because this model minority, I guess, what's it called? What's the word I'm looking for? Model minority stereotype has made Asians perceive themselves as citizens that work hard and get what they need in life and succeed, whereas blacks always complain and they always need help and welfare checks or whatnot, which isn't necessarily true, but because the media started portraying that in the 60s during the civil rights movement, that's why there's somewhat of a clash.
Because I feel like in Asian culture, especially from all my Asian friends and from my family as well, my mom will get mad if I get a B on something. And usually, even white parents, they don't usually get mad when their kid gets a B. That's just a stereotype, but it's true. Like, in my family, like, they will literally be so upset. And basically, I'm not, like, my own adult until I get married. That's, my culture. As for white people, usually 18, you move out. That's it, you're done. Mm-hmm. But for me, like, I'm in close ties with my family until I get married. And even then, I still have close ties with them. Stuff like that. So I don't think it's necessarily false either. I think it's pretty true what they perceive about Asian Americans with their whole, I guess, model minority thing with getting good grades and being lawful, whatever. That's just taught as when we're younger. That we're taught that, and it's based on our culture too. So I don't really think there's that much to say it's false. I just think that people don't realize how true it is in Asian culture that, yes, we do have to do these certain types of things to, I guess, honor our family. So.
Okay. But do you believe that, based off of that Asians have made it? I guess the model minority has two parts. It's that Asian culture is about working hard and just getting ahead in life, and then because of that, they've gotten ahead. Do you believe that it's true in both of those areas?
I think it's true that because of the hard work and because of the values that our family usually pushes on us, then people can become successful. And it's not just for Asians, for anyone. But that just happens with Asians because we see that a lot because, family culture, values, stuff like that. So, no, I don't think it's just I don't think it's a stereotype. I think it's just true. I don't know how else to word it.
I get it, yeah. I was just curious because you brought up the clash and it reminded me of the model minority myth. So I'll get to my last subject, which is yellow fever and white fever. Now, as an Asian woman, there's that stereotype of people who like Asian women who have yellow fever, and that's kind of creepy. How do you feel about non-Asian men who have a preference for Asian women or like yellow fever? Is that creepy to you or what?
If yellow fever only describes as in like fetishizing Asian women, I think that's wrong. But I mean, you're what you're into, right? You can't really do anything about it. I think that anyone could have a preference of who they like and who they usually date, and not because of just looks, but because of, I said again, like the culture thing or values or similar mindsets. So, like for me, like I would never, I just physically cannot date a liberal guy because we have different values in our lives, and so that's a big thing for me. So I would just, lean towards conservative men, stuff like that. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. So.
Okay, so it depends for you.
Yeah.
Okay. And would you say that, given that there are situations where you have powerful white men such as, Rupert Murdoch, Mark Zuckerberg, and Woody Allen, who have been married to or married Asian women, do you think that there may be some white fever going on in that regard?
I don't think so. As I said again, people don't choose what they're attracted to. I don't think someone could force me to like a certain trait or a certain aspects about a person I didn't used to like before. Everyone, as I said, everyone is attracted to what they're attracted to, and you can't really change anything about that. So if they think that a certain type of men look pretty, then they will go for that. You can't really say, well, I'm going to force myself to do something I don't like, because that would be wrong.
Okay. Couple more questions. I've asked you about white fever because I've noticed that, at least what I've heard, is that you have a white boyfriend, and you've been criticized for that by a lot of people. Like, what do you have to say about people who view you as having a white boyfriend as problematic?
Well, first off, I want to address that I've dated literally like every race except Asian probably, because I just can't find any around my area. But I don't think having a white boyfriend is wrong in any way or sense. You love who you love, and you can't really do anything about that. And, you know, white people are the majority, make the majority of the population in the U.S., so you can't really blame someone for dating a white person when they're more available to you. So that's it.
Okay. And because you're not necessarily in, like, an area where there's a lot of Asians. Okay. My final question is, and thank you for taking all these, by the way, is, all right, give me a minute. Given that you've gone from Obama to Trump, and you have strong conservative views, and you've been, like, vocal about issues such as Black Lives Matter, on top of having a white boyfriend, do you understand why some people, particularly on the left, may label you as an Asian female who is joining the winning team? And what do you have to say about people who view you that way?
I don't think their judgment is fair. I think that they haven't really met me in person. They've only seen, you know, my dating life and then what I post online. But just because I have a certain political view, just because I have certain values, doesn't mean that I'm trying to just go on a winning team. Because I supported Trump even before he won, the presidency. So I can't really just hop around to the other side and say, oh, I'm for Trump now because he won. It's not because of that. So it's more of like I stick to my values. I'm not afraid to call out people or I'm not afraid to talk about them, my values. I'm not afraid for other people to judge me based on values because they are my values. That's all I know and that's all I care about. So I don't think it's right for anyone to judge anyone based on what they do in their personal life or what they have an opinion about.